What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. Now, today's going to be a Q&A. Today's going to be answering a question. Now, if you are a newly graduated physician assistant, a newly graduated clinician, nurse practitioner, whatever the case may be, or maybe you graduated, however, you don't feel that the schooling prepared you adequately for clinical practice, then I feel that this is going to be very relatable. I feel like this is going to help you a lot. So let's get into the reader's question, and then I'll give my 2 cents as to how I feel like maybe you should approach it, or I'll give my advice. And as always, this is a one person's advice. This is one person's take on the matter. Because I give my advice, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's 100%, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the correct advice for you. Hopefully what you're doing with these videos, with these podcasts, is you're taking my advice, you're taking the things that work for you, and you're discarding the rest, right? So let's get into the question, and then I'll give my 2 cents. She says, "Hi, Andrew. I recently signed up to your newsletter. I'm a fairly limited experienced physician assistant. Now here's my pickle. I graduated miraculously from PA school, barely scraping by, and barely scraped by with my boards. I subsequently worked a stint in derm before they felt I didn't know enough, and then briefly in primary care addiction, with a doctor whose focus was the addiction side rather than the primary care. I left that job because of a robbery after 6 months, and I'm now working for an infectious disease specialist who's great. But we only interact for about an hour or a half an hour in the total day. He said I need to learn the basics. Now, I don't disagree with him, especially with my weak performance as a student. I always did fine in rotations and interviews. I just don't know where to start, and I'm feeling motivated to make sure that I make this job work. I want to make sure I show growth and that I'm learning. Any recommendations on how to tackle this? Thank you in advance." So here we have this PA who graduated, right? And in a sense, we could think of this PA as a newly graduated physician assistant. Now, when you're in school, you should have the basics down. It should be the program's responsibility to make sure. Now, I feel that if you were able to get through everything and you were able to pass your exams, the certification exam, the boards, whatever you want to call it, that you know enough and you have the basics down. However, as I've said before, studying for an exam is not the same thing as studying to practice in real life. It's not the same as treating patients. I have very simple advice for anybody who's looking to get better at their craft. And really, this advice applies to any situation. It doesn't matter if you're trying to get better at medicine, if you want to be better at soccer, if you want to, learn how to read faster. The only way to get better at something is to do something. There's no substitution for doing. If you want to get better at treating patients, treat more patients. If you want to get better at diagnosing patients, diagnose more patients. If you want to get better at managing patients, you have to manage more patients. That is the only way. You can't get better by reading. You can't get better by studying. You can only get better by doing. Now, granted, studying, reading, preparing, those are all part of the equation. But without the doing, you will never actually get better. So when you have a patient that you're not quite sure what to do, get help, ask for help, but do it. Don't pawn the patient off to somebody in the clinic there. Instead, ask for help. Or if the physician on staff or your colleague rather see the patient, then make sure you're attached at the hip if you're really unsure. So that way, when the next patient comes around with similar symptoms, you can at least get the patient started. You can get the workup going, you can get a consult, and you can make sure you're on the right track. Something I always tell people to do, whenever you refer to a specialist, it doesn't matter the type of specialist, look at the notes that the specialist writes. See their notes. See what their assessment is. See what their plan is, what their management is. Learn from what they're doing. They often write details as to why they're doing what they're doing. This is very important. It's always important to get a different perspective, because when you're working with the same people over and over again, you start to get used to and you start to get accustomed to their way of doing things. But if you get an outside perspective every now and then, that really broadens your horizons, because if they do something that you've never seen before, you're not quite sure, that should prompt you to look it up. Now this is where the studying helps. This is where the lectures help. This is where reading helps. But in order to actually get to that point, you need to see the patients and you need to know what you're not comfortable with. And over time, what your base that was this big will now grow to this big will grow to this big, but it's going to happen so gradually. It's going to happen so gradually. You're not going to notice that you're getting better. You're not going to notice that you're improving, but you have to do it every single day. For anybody out there that's trying to get better, for anybody out there that's trying to do anything in life that's worth doing, you have to tackle this on a 7 days a week basis. See, you can't expect to be great without putting in the work. You can't expect, like they say, you can't expect $1 million salary with minimum wage work ethic. If you want to live up to your potential, then you have to actually put in everything that you have into this, especially at the beginning when you're barely trying to get your bearings straight. You have to put in hours and hours of work a day. You have to be at the clinic all day. After being at the clinic, you have to come home. Hopefully you wrote notes. Hopefully you have charts. Hopefully you documented the things that you didn't know. When you come home, you look it up. You make sure that you don't miss that again. And then you do this over and over and over. And it's not fancy, right? What I'm saying here isn't fancy. It's not sexy. It's not any type of secret sauce. It's normal, routine, mundane. It's just work over and over and over and over again. It's that unsexy part that's going to make you great. It's the monotonous work, because 90% of all greats, what do? They do the same thing over and over again. So my advice to you is that put in the work, put in the hours, and over time you will get better. It's not going to happen overnight, but when it does happen, you will definitely notice. You're going to look back and say, holy cow, crap, whatever you want to say, I did it. So that's my advice. Have a great Monday. Hopefully this, helped some of you. If this helped you at all, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the podcast. Share this with anybody that you feel needs to see this. If there are any questions, send an email to andrew@physicianassistantboards.com, or you can message me on my personal Instagram, AND_REID, or on the PA Boards Instagram, PABOARDS. Oh, and one last thing before I go, completely forgot, but I want to share some news with you guys. If you guys made it this far on the podcast, on the YouTube, then hopefully you're hearing this. If not, no big deal. However, I made some updates on the website. Big updates. Now, what are these updates? These updates are really going to be a 2-in-1 type of thing. I used to have the course open for a select period of time. My course is the board review course, the pharmacology review course. I've switched that, and now it's open 24/7, 365. So you can purchase the review course whenever you'd like, and I've even made it available to have a free trial. So now you can try the course to see if this is for you, and then you can buy whenever you feel ready. So the way to actually get about this, it's going to be at a different URL. You can go to learn.physicianassistantboards.com, and here you're going to see the different courses that we have. And here you can do your free trial, see if this is for you. And if it's not for you, hopefully you got something out of the free videos that I have there for you. And yeah, that's it. That's the update. Take care, guys. Now, have a great week, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.